I'm going to go through exactly how I was able to levitate in a recent YouTube short that I've created. But of course, by the time you're watching this video, the video won't be recent and you will be wondering what I'm talking about. So let's show you an example of me levitating.
All this time, I've been holding on so tight, 'cause all that I do was easy to use. So call my time.
Now you've just seen me levitate. What I'm going to explain are all of the production things that I had to consider to make that look realistic. Because of course, I'm not actually levitating in this room. But let's explain things step by step so that you can maybe get the same results, or if not better results, when you try to levitate or fly yourself. So step one is lighting. So as you can see right now, I'm lighting my own shot, but there are two different sources of light. We have the natural light coming in from the window on my right hand side of my room, or your left, my right. And then you have another photography bulb light source on the left hand side right here that I've set up myself. Now, this light I have control over because it's a bulb. I can move its position and I can of course turn off the light if I want to use just the natural light on its own. Now, here's the problem. When you're doing any CGI, computer graphics, animation, or maybe even using AI, when you're going from one frame or one position to another, you're going to have problems if you're using natural light, because the continuity of that light is going to change, making your animation look less realistic, especially if you don't have control over each frame that you're creating of you levitating. So let's say it's a 60 frames per second shot. Between each 60 frames, there's going to be a difference in light, and you need to consider that when you're creating your flight. So these are the things that you need to consider if you're going to use natural light or artificial light to aid you when you are creating your levitation effect. Let's continue because there's more. The position. So as you can see, the shot that I've taken in me levitating is quite a long shot. I'm standing all the way over there. But right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm at a close-up shot where you can only see me. It's sort of like a mid shot, but you can't see the lower half of my body. It's kind of classed as a little close-up mid shot because you can see the top half of my body. So kind of a mid shot if you think about mid region, abdomen region. So this is a close mid shot. A close-up shot is usually of the face from the neck up. Let's say the subject is me, a person. From the neck up, face will be a close-up shot. So just giving you a few different ideas for if you're going to levitate, because of course, if you're going to levitate from a close-up shot from your face, from each frame is going to be very different of your levitation. It might look a little bit different if you're quite close up as opposed to when I'm quite far away in a long shot. Now, there are many different things to consider from your camera position. So when I'm doing a long shot, all of the different things in my room or environment are going to come into play so that it needs to look real. So, if I'm using a real life setting, like I've used my room, my living quarters, then I'm going to have to consider everything that's in the scene at the time. So let's consider that right now. If you look in the background, you can see I have clothing, a wardrobe. I've changed my environment a little bit today, and I also have some things on the shelf in the far back of the shot. Now, smaller details are going to be harder to animate or replicate when you are creating your flight. Each frame has to have the same thing in it so that it doesn't look odd or unrealistic. It's the best way to explain the continuity of your flight or CGI scene that you're creating. So the things on my shelf, I'm going to go and grab them right now. I do have my headphones plugged into my controller. There's a reason for that. But I'm going to take it with me while I just show you some of the things that are on my shelf. 1 second. Alan Power. So one of the things I have is this snow globe, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of detail on the snow globe because, of course, it's a snow globe. There's a lot of snow in it, and it's going to be fairly difficult to animate this even close up. But if it was very far away, these details are going to be less in focus with a very long shot. Let's grab something else off that shelf to show you how complicated it would be if you had anything small in your scene when you're creating your flight, animation, CGI, or AI graphics. Let's take a look. So I have a mirror. One of the worst things to have in any sort of animation scene or realistic setting when you're filming absolutely anything is going to be a mirror. Why? Because this is going to break the illusion of the effect that you're creating. Because if you catch a camera in your shot, then of course you already have taken the viewer out of the experience and they've just noticed the camera in the shot. So they're not in the scene with you and they are now on the other end of the camera. They realize the camera's there and the illusion is broken. Remember, you're creating something that gives the impression that it's really happening. If you want your flight to look realistic, then that mirror is going to be an extreme headache for you to animate in your scene. Because if you have a camera position, the camera gets closer and you see the camera, that's an issue. But if you don't see the person levitating in the reflection and it's caught the person in the angle of the mirror, that's another issue. Also, reflections are harder to animate because there are different types of reflections that a mirror can cast. If there's a slight blur on the mirror, or there's different types of lighting that is affecting or shining off or onto the mirror, or if what you have on your clothing has any details that the mirror will not or is not picking up, this will then have to be considered. And if you don't have control over the animation or CGI you're creating with frame by frame animations, maybe using something like Blender, then that is going to be an absolute headache to keep in your scene. I also have this YouTube badge that was sent to me by YouTube. Now, if you want to know how I got this badge, I have some videos that I've uploaded in the Anthony Allen Updates playlist where I'm unboxing some of the gifts that YouTube and Google have sent to me. If you want to know more about that, stay to the end of the video and then I'll put that on the screen so you can take a look. Now, there's something else on that shelf that would also cause a lot of issues, and this is going to give you even more information and value when you are trying to create something like what I've created. And we have some more information that you don't want to miss as well. So let me pick up the other thing that's on my shelf. One of the last things on my shelf is a YouTube play button. Now, this is for 100,000 subscribers, but there's quite a few issues when you're using this in a scene like what I've just shown you. Now, I've shown you quite a few different versions, and that's done on purpose. So you can see that this play button has a mirror on it. I think this is purposely done by the YouTube team to keep a creator from not thinking about their production values when they're filming something. So a mirror, as I said, is fairly difficult to film and to do things with in general, with cameras and all sorts of lights, glares. Mirrors are a pain when you're trying to film anything because it's going to break the viewer's, what's the word I'm looking for? Attention. They're just gonna be like, yo, there's the camera? Whoa, what the heck? Am I being filmed now? Whoa. It's like breaking the 180-degree rule. It takes the viewer out of the experience. There's also some very small writing in the YouTube logo on my silver play button. So these things as well, if you're trying to get additional help, maybe using AI for your levitation effect, these things are definitely going to be an issue if you don't have control over animating each individual scene. Right, so I wanted to go over that because if you've noticed, I removed those things from the background. In some cases, when I was creating my levitation effect, you might notice I've changed the camera position with some movement. So more production value for you here. Just because you've started at a long shot, so all of your body in the scene, doesn't mean that you can't pan or zoom or dolly or track, moving your camera on a track. All of these different types of movements will change the type of shot or animation that you have the longer it goes. So if you've noticed through some of the examples that I gave you earlier on, there was a zoom in some of the shots. This is your creative direction that you can input into your ideas when you're creating like a CGI or a levitation effect like what I've created. These are some of the lessons and the takeaways that I'm giving to you for free, shortening the learning curve for yourself if you want to go and make these types of effects for yourself. Now, I already knew this, but I wanted to do some tests and put things forward into what I was doing in order to create my levitation. Now, I won't be going over the exact techniques I used to levitate myself off the ground. Instead, I'm giving you the production value and the core value and principles that are going to help you with whatever type of animation or CGI you are going to create in future, or maybe you just want to learn some of the behind the scenes of how I get things done. So we've covered lighting, we've covered the scenes and the shots, because we covered the long, mid shot, close up, the lighting, remember, the artificial source and the natural source that can change from scene to scene. There's also the type of camera that you're using if you're creating any CGI or computer generated graphics of a realistic scene. Now remember, everything in my scene exists in the scene. There was an issue that I don't have control over, and it is currently a piece of painting that's chipped off the wall. Now, if you look closely at some of the examples that I've already given to you, that chipped painting changes shape the longer the animation goes along. Now, I could have kept that continuity going for that piece of painting that's chipped off the wall by binding it to the types of animations that I was creating in order to get myself to levitate off the ground. These are things that you also need to consider. What you don't have control over in your realistic setting, you can either change by making your scene artificial, maybe with some green screening, or using different effects. When time management is in your control, when you're creating these different types of effects and levitations and all these sort of things, you have control over what your scene could be, even if you can't get there yourself. So let's say you want to film in the Himalayas, green screen, and get your animation head and your creative ideas on the go to put yourself in the Himalayas, the mountains, the snowy mountains. So sound as well is also something that you might want to consider for each of your scenes that you were creating as well. So I just wanted to give you the production value and just cover these things again. Now, I have done this beforehand, but I wanted to do this one more time just to really hit home some of the production values and lessons that I can give to you as a creator or somebody who just wants to know the behind the scenes of how I get some of these things done, and you can understand how much goes behind the pre-production and then the production, and then of course the post-production, releasing the content of how I get it all done. Now, I've done these as YouTube shorts and also some long form, and you can check out some of those videos right now on the screen. You can click those where I'm covering my levitation in different ways maybe, or the updates playlist that I spoke about. So the Anthony Allen's updates playlist is also available on screen right now. Hopefully you've enjoyed my rambling explanation of all the different things that I considered when I levitated off the ground, and hopefully this has helped you. My name is Anthony Allen. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. There's going to be no cuts or edits other than me inserting the videos that you needed to see. Thanks for watching. Launch.